ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। वेलकम टू भक्ति शास्त्री क्लास। By the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, we have completed the 2 modules of Bhakti Shastri. Now starting with the third one, which starts with the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Shri Shri Radha Govind ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Unit 3, Elevation through the modes. The aim of this unit is to deepen the understanding of the working of these 3 modes, how these 3 modes are working in this material world, that is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, goodness, passion and ignorance, which is described in chapter 13 to 18 of this Bhagavad Gita. And also to identify the symptoms of 3 modes and become more aware of how these modes are influencing all of us. And equip the students to skills required to elevate themselves to Sattva Guna and ultimately transcendence. So these are the 3 aims of this unit. First of all, one should understand what are these 3 modes and how to transcend them. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Yoga. That is the 13th chapter. And 14th chapter is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. These both chapters will be taken today. And in the next one, the symptoms, how these 3 modes are acting. Every living entity in this material world is under the control of 3 modes. Anybody who comes here, they'll come under the modes of nature, 3 modes of nature. How to understand this, in which mode am I situated? That is by seeing the symptoms of our life. So how we are behaving, how we are leading our life, what kind of habits I am having, what kind of life I am living. Based on that, we can identify whether a person is in Sattva Guna or in Rajoguna or in Tamoguna, goodness, passion or ignorance. After knowing all these things, one should try to transcend these 3 modes. In the beginning, one should come to the Sattva Guna, that is the goodness, which is very conducive for practice of Krishna consciousness, spirituality. And then finally, he has to transcend Sattva Guna as well, because Sattva Guna also binds the person. The Sattva Guna binds by 2 things. One is the happiness, other one is knowledge. So these two things also binding. One should transcend these all three modes and come to the platform of transcendence. There are 4 parts in this unit, that is 4 lessons. First lesson is describing entanglement in the modes of nature. That is how 3 modes are present. This is dealing with the chapter number 13 and 14. And then lesson 2 is the Banyan Tree and Purushottama Yoga. This is chapter number 15. And lesson 3, divine and demonic nature. That is chapter number 16 and 17. Then finally lesson 4, division of faith, which has 17th chapter, and the 18th chapter is also covered within that, because 18th chapter is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. In this way, there are 4 lessons in this unit. Sorry, 5th one, surrender to Krishna. That is the 18th chapter. 5 lessons are there in this unit. Entanglement in the modes of nature. So we'll begin with the chapter number 13. This chapter is called as Kshetrajna Yoga. In the beginning, first 7 shloka, it describes what is Kshetra and what is Kshetrajna. Kshetra means the field, and Kshetrajna means knower of the field. The process of knowledge, the object of knowledge, then Prakriti Purusha and their union, Jnana Chakshu, that is the vision of knowledge. In this way, there are totally 35 shloka. And in chapter number 14, Krishna as the seed-giving father for all the living entities. That is the first 4 shloka it is described. And then conditioning, characteristics, action, and death in the 3 modes. How 3 modes are conditioning the living entity, how the living entity behaves when it comes under a particular mode, and what are his activities that he performs, and the death when it occurs in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. What will be the destination of that person? Transcending the modes, how to come out of these 3 modes. These are the 3 topics that are covered in this 14th chapter. Entanglement in 3 modes. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this material world. Now, in this chapter, the Supreme Personality of God, Personality explains what those modes of nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. This portion of the Bhagavad Gita, the third part, that is 13 to 18, is describing about the material energy, the material nature of the Lord, or energy of the Lord, material world. How the material world is acting, how it is binding the living entity, all these things are explained. So that is why it is called as Jnana. So by using this Jnana, we should cultivate devotional service. The devotional service is not just a sentiment. If you only practice devotional service as a matter of emotion or sentiment, then it doesn't have a firm foundation. It can lose the spirit of devotion. So it has to be protected with the Jnana or the knowledge. So knowledge is the must if one wants to practice devotional service. And dry speculation is also not good. If somebody has only Jnana, only knowledge, without the practice or without performing devotional service, that is also not going to take us anywhere. So one has to practice Krishna consciousness actively, and also he has to develop the knowledge regarding this material world, how the modes are acting. Now, why modes are given so much importance is everything that happens, it is because of these 3 modes. The Lord doesn't touch this material world directly. He is making the things to happen through the material energy. And this material energy is in the form of three modes. In whatever mode a person comes under, he will helplessly work in that mode. He will not have any other option. But the only freedom what he has is to change his mode. Whatever mode he has to develop, that he has the freedom. But the activity that we perform, it is always under the control of material energy. We can, the jiva, it cannot directly touch the body. The body is working, or the body is doing any kind of activity by taking the strength from the material energy, which is in the form of three modes. So it is very important to know how these three modes are acting, how they are binding, and how to transcend them. Purusha Prakritistohi, if you see the shloka, 13th chapter, first shloka, Arjuna is asking the question. Arjuna uvacha, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnamevacha Etadveditumichami Jnanam Jneyam Cha Keshava. Let us go to the Veda base. Okay, this is the question that Arjuna is asking. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnamevacha Etadveditumichami Jnanam Jneyam Cha Keshava. So Arjuna is asking, my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, that is the nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and an object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So many things Arjuna is asking. He is asking about first, what is the Prakriti or the nature, and Purusha, that is the enjoyer, the field, knower of the field, the knowledge, object of the knowledge. These are the 6 things that Arjuna wants to know from the Lord, Shri Krishna. Krishna is going to answer this in next coming shloka. So in the beginning, he says, the field and the knower of the field. What is a field? If we want to do any kind of activity, we need a platform. We need a place. So that is the field. The jiva, if it has to perform any kind of activity, he needs the body. If there is no body, the action, the work cannot happen. So this body, the material body that we are getting, that itself is the field of activity for us. And who is the jnaya, or who is the knower of this field? Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna is, there are 2 people. One is the jiva, other one is the Paramatma. Jivatma and Paramatma. The living entity, the soul, and the super soul. These are the 2 knowers of the body or the field of activity. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattat jnanam matam mama. Krishna is the knower of all the fields, and the living entity, he is the knower of only one body in which he is present. There are so many living entities in this material world, and in each and every living entity's heart, there is Paramatma. So that is the Paramatma, the all-pervasiveness. He is omnipresent. He is omniscient. He knows everything and he is everywhere. But the Jivatma, he is the locally present living entity. I can make out what is happening in my body. If I have some pain in my hand, I can make out. And if there is any pain in somebody else's hand, I cannot make out, or they cannot feel the pain that I am feeling. So this is the difference between the Jivatma and Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. So that's why it's told, O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So why the word also is used? Because already somebody is there, the knower. That is the Jivatma, the living entity. And Krishna is telling, I am also, and also the knower in all bodies. This is the difference. So here the Lord as the super soul is present in each and every body, in which there is already the Jivatma. And he is present in all the bodies. That's why the plural is used here. He is present in all body. And what is knowledge? To understand this body and its knower. If we are able to understand how this body is made and what is the function of this body, what is the purpose of this body, the 5 elements, how they are acting, the 5 senses, how they are binding, what is mind, what is intelligence, what is false ego, all these constituents, to know all these things, along with the knower, that is myself, who am I, the knowledge of the Atma, the soul, and the knowledge of the Paramatma, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these things together is called as the knowledge. Understanding all these things are considered as the knowledge. Now continued, Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yadvikari yataschayat sacha yoyat prabhavascha tat samasena meshrunu. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, where it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. All these things will be answered in the next coming shloka. So Krishna is going to answer what is the field of activity, what is this field of activity, and what is the constitution of this field of activity, and then how it is changing, just like our body is changing from childhood to boyhood, then youth, then old age, then death, all these things. And when it was produced, when this body was produced, or is there any date where the soul was produced, and finally the field of activities and its influences. First of all, Krishna is giving the evidences or references, because this is an example that Krishna is giving. Whenever we speak about something, we should give reference from the Shastra. So even Krishna, whatever Krishna speaks, that itself is Shastra, but still Krishna is also giving the Shastrik Pramana or the reference. Rishubhir Bahuta Gitam Chandobhir Vividai Prithak Brahma Sutra Padeshchaiva Hetumadbhir Vinishthitai. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described in by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Many sages have written this in the Vedic writings, and also especially Vedanta Sutra is described here. Here Sutra means formula. Vyasadeva, after writing all the Vedas, he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. That means it's a brief explanation, or it's like a formula. Just like in maths, we have different types of formula. And if that formula is used or it is expanded, it can be applicable for so many applications. So in the same way, this Vedanta Sutra, just like Athato Brahma Jijnasa, it's a Vedanta Sutra. It doesn't speak much about anything. It is just telling, therefore you should do the spiritual jijnasa, that is inquiry. inquire about the Brahman. Why that therefore is used, that has to be explained by Acharya. Then the next Acharyas have come and written the Bhashya for this Vedanta Sutra, which give elaborate explanation. For every sutra, they will use so many examples, so many stories from the Puranas and explain them one by one. So this is the Vedanta Sutra, which Vyasadeva himself has given. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva himself. The author of Vedanta Sutra and author of Srimad Bhagavatam is same. And Vedanta, the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Now Krishna is continuing. What are the those kshetra? They are made of what? They are five great elements, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then we have false ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested, that is avyakta. Then the 10 senses, the five input senses and 5 working senses, the mind, and 5 sense objects, that is the shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, whatever we perceive through the senses, and the desire, hatred, that is the duality, happiness, distress, and the aggregate of all, and the life symptoms and convictions. All these things together, it is considered in summary as the field of activity and its interaction. The creation has happened in this way. So the entire creation or the field includes all these elements. It has all the elements that is given here. It is explained in the purport very clearly. Next, Krishna is speaking about the jnana, that is etad jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yat athonyata. This is text number 8 to 12. It is telling amanitvam adhambitvam ahimsa Shantirarjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Sthiryam Atma Vinigraha, Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, Anahankara Evacha, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, Asakti Ranabhishwanga, Putradara Grahadishu, Nityam Cha Samachittatvam, Ishtanishtopa Pattishu. Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhakti Ravyabhicharini, Vivikta Desha Sevitvam, Aratir Janasansadi, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, Etad Jnanam iti Proktam, Ajnanam yat ajnanam yadanyat atonyatha. So these are the knowledge. That is, all these I declare to be the knowledge, and besides this, whatever is there, they all are ignorance. This is the total list of the all the knowledge that is listed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Next, come to the text number 22. Purusha prakritisto hi bhungte prakriti jangunan. That is, the living entity in matter enjoys the nature born modes. That is, the Purusha. Purusha here refers to the living entity, all the jivas. They are, when they are present in the prakriti, in this material world, they are trying to enjoy. What they are enjoying? Prakriti jan gunan. They are trying to enjoy the 3 modes, either in the sattva guna, or in the rajoguna, or in the tamoguna. This is a false enjoyment. He is thinking that he is enjoying, but actually the 3 modes are controlling him. How they are enjoying? Bhungte prakriti jan gunan. Karanam gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. And when the living entity is associating with these 3 modes, because of the cause and association, they will get either good birth or bad birth. If a person he develops goodness, he will get a higher platform, and if he develops a ignorance, then he will get a lower platform. Or in the Rajoguna, he will stay in the middle. So urdhvam gachanti sattvasto madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganna gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasaha. So in this way, there is always the fight between the three modes. Sattvam rajas tama iti guna prakriti sambhava. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with the nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these three modes. So these are the three modes which can bind the living entity. Now let us divide these three modes into all the activities into these three modes. That is, in the chapter number 14, we have from 6 to 10 how these three modes are conditioning the living entity, and then what are the characteristics and symptoms of a person who is under these three modes. So whether he is in Sattva Guna, what kind of nature he is developing, and in Rajoguna, what kind of characteristics he develops, and then destination at death, when a person dies in a particular mode, what is his destination, then finally the results of action in that particular mode. This is explained in the 14th chapter, that is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Anybody would like to read this? You can raise your hand. Muralidharan Prabhu.
If therefore the mode of passion, instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. Bhagavad Gita 3.37 purport. Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. So here, generally, the people who are in this material world, we are more passionate. Those who are working hard, those who are working in this material world, they are showing maximum. Most of the population is in the mode of passion. Because of this passion, they are working very hard for achieving something in life. Now, what Prabhupada is saying, instead of degrading oneself into ignorance from the passion, one has to elevate himself to the goodness. So in what is the difference between goodness and the passion, or the Sattva Guna and Rajoguna? In Rajoguna, the person is very active, but in the mode of goodness, or in the Sattva Guna, the person is active, but also he is knowledgeable. He will not act, or he will not work very hard for attaining something very which is not so much of necessary, or which is not out of running behind the sense gratification objects which are temporary. In the Sattva-guna, or in the mode of goodness, the person becomes intelligent, and he is able to discriminate between what is good, what is bad, and he will he'll be able to understand what is the cause of the bondage, and he will work for coming out of that bondage, instead of working hard only for getting some sense gratificatory objects and trying to become happy, which is called as passion. And if there is no guidance, or if somebody is not trying to come to Sattva-guna, there is a chance for him to get degraded to the ignorance. Because when a person comes to the sense gratification, the mode, it will drag him to the ignorance, and he will degrade himself. It is obvious, it is by default, the person will generally, when a person running behind the senses, he will finally end up in the ignorance, the mode of ignorance, or it is called tamoguna. Now Prabhupada is telling one has to practice this Krishna consciousness. When he practices Krishna consciousness, what happens? He will gradually develop the mode of sattva-guna, or mode of goodness, so that he can understand what it is actually. It is like we are wearing different colored glasses. If you are wearing red color glass, everything looks red. If you are wearing green color glass, everything, whole world looks green. Similarly, these modes are coloring us, our vision. So whatever actually present in front of us, we are not able to see it. But when all the three modes are removed, when we come out of these three modes, then we'll get a very clear vision of the things, what it is actually, how it is. We are able to understand. In that situation, a person can get rid of this entanglement. So this is how we have to understand the three modes and try to come out of that. Rakshita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhadayaschaye cheta etair anavidham stitham sattve prasidate. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes and modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in the mode of goodness, and he becomes completely happy.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In this way, this is the way how one can transcend the three modes, the sattva, rajas, and tamas. In the beginning, the person has to come to the mode of goodness, and then he can transcend the goodness as well. Mode of goodness is like you have a perfect platform. If a aircraft, it has to take off, it needs a runway. This mode of goodness will act as that runway. In the mode of goodness, the person is happy and he is full of knowledge. So when there is full of knowledge, and when he is living a happy life, he can think of the higher purpose in life. When a person is in the passion or in ignorance, when he is running behind the sense objects, when he is not able to control the senses, then there is hardly any chance for him to think about his next life, or his entanglement. What is the cause of bondage? Why I am here? Why I am present here? All these questions will not come in his mind. And the super soul who is present in the heart, even though he is giving the guidance to the living entity, he is not able to take any instructions from him. But when he comes to the sattva guna, he becomes calm and he is happy within whatever situation he is present. Even though outside world it is so much of topsy-turvy, but still within he is feeling the happiness, and he is able to understand that whatever extent the sense gratification I may have, I will not be able to become happy here, and one day I have to leave this place and I have to make a plan so that I don't have to come back here again. All these things can happen only in goodness. So one has to come to the platform of goodness. So this is possible when we practice Krishna consciousness. When we serve the Lord through our senses get purified, and then our heart gets purified. Then we can understand Krishna easily. Sarita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati taitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Continue, Mataji.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here, this is the way how one can transcend the three modes. We have to do the Bhakti Yoga. That is Mamchayo Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate. Avyabhicharena Bhakti. That means only serving the Lord, Krishna, without any deviation. We should not deviate our attention to so many other things which may be attractive other than devotional service. So with full concentration, we should continuously perform Bhakti Yoga, that is the devotional service to Krishna. So in this way, Sagunan Samatityaityan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. In this way, he will be able to transcend the three modes of nature, and then he will come to the level of Brahman. That means it's the beginning. Brahman realization is the beginning of spiritual realization. He will come to the first. He just begins when he transcends the three modes. Then he has to continue to the other higher platform, that is the Paramatma and Bhagavan Sakshatkara, the realization. Sureshwar Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Quality of goodness will automatically be there. The Krishna consciousness movement is directly offering the spiritual platform which is above the mode of goodness. The equality of goodness will automatically Krishna consciousness, his quality of goodness, namely he does not indulge in illicit sex life, he does not smoke even or to take tea, coffee even, he does not eat any forbidden foodstuff, neither he takes part in unnecessary gambling. So good character is immediately there. Bhagavad Gita 2.40-45, Los Angeles, December 13, 1968.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Here, Prabhupada is telling, if we are practicing Krishna consciousness, then there is no separate endeavor for coming out of these three modes. It will happen automatically. One just have to practice Krishna consciousness or the activities that is guided by the spiritual master. Chant 16 rounds, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and follow 4 regulative principles. Doing all these things, the person can easily come out of these three modes and he can transcend them so that he can understand Krishna. This we can see practically in the life of devotees. When they come to Krishna consciousness, when they come to the contact of devotees, they will give up all their bad habits and they are well behaved. They know the purpose of life and they don't indulge in all the unnecessary activities, so that they will be always in the mode of goodness, so that they can come to the platform of Shuddha Sattva or Vishuddha Sattva, in which they can perform the devotional service. Sarita Kapoor Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Save humanity from the greatest danger. The present human civilization is, of course, grossly misled by the modes of passion and ignorance. It is very dangerous. It is a very dangerous age, and all nations should take care to provide the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, to save humanity from the greatest danger. Bhagavad Gita 14.16 purport. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Prabhupada is here, he is telling, entire world is in the greatest danger. What is this greatest danger? A devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the greatest danger that you are telling every time? The greatest danger is entering the animal kingdom or animal life once again, even after coming to the human form of life. After millions of birth, we have come to this human form of life. We got it. But if we are not making use of this human form of life, which is temporary, but it is very useful, which can anitya but arthadam. It is temporary, but it is very much useful. It can take us back to Godhead. So everyone should take advantage of this. Every human being. Animals are not capable to take advantage of this knowledge. But anybody who has taken the human form of life, they have to work for escaping from this greatest danger. The present human civilization, whatever we are seeing, they are misled by this passion and ignorance. Yeah, if we are seeing outside world, they are trying to make people more and more passionate, and they make them to work very hard, but they don't know why they have to work so hard if they don't know what is the real goal of life. So even after working so much hard, they will use all their energy finally into sense gratification, and it will once again degrade their life. So the thing what we have to do is, first we have to give them the mode of goodness. So this mode of goodness, it has to be given to them by spreading Krishna consciousness. When we spread Krishna consciousness, when we spread the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world, there is a chance for everyone to escape from this greatest danger, that is because of the three modes. Deepti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat. Education for developing the mode of goodness. Because people have no education and actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So here Prabhupada is talking about the education. Because people have no education in actual knowledge, they are becoming irresponsible. This Bhagavad Gita, or this knowledge what Arjuna is hearing from Sri Krishna, it has to be given to every child, every person in the school itself, in the education itself. By doing that, the person will become responsible. If a person given education only for earning money and sense gratification without any responsibility towards the higher purposes in life, they will become animals. Either in this life itself or in the next life, they will degrade themselves. So they will easily get caught by the material energy. In this way, the person will spoil his this human form of life. But if it is given at the very beginning of their life, in the childhood itself, just like Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumara acharet prajno dharman bhagavataniha durlabha manusham janma tadapi adhruvam arthadam. This human form of life is very rare to achieve. The Krishna consciousness has to be practiced at very early age. Then one can succeed in his the goal of life, that is achieving Krishna consciousness, for developing the mode of goodness. Radha Vallabi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Education for developing the mode of goodness. Even if the majority of the people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is a possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Bhagavad Gita 14:17. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. Here, Prabhupada is telling, it is not necessary that you have to make the entire population, 100% population, into Krishna conscious. That may not be possible. But at least certain portion, certain percentage of people, if they become Krishna conscious, if they develop the Krishna consciousness, then also this whole world can become like Vaikuntha. The peace and prosperity can spread all over the world. If there are good number of devotees, if there are certain percentage, even if you take 1%, It's a very huge number. So if 1% of the entire population becomes devotees also, then there is a very good chance for achieving the mode of goodness and transcending the three modes. Let us see the chapter once again briefly, as we have done the 13th. So here Krishna is speaking about the jnaya, that is the object of knowledge, in the next session, that is the sixth question of Arjuna. He is explaining about the Brahman, the spirit, beginless and subordinate to me. So I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless, subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So this is Krishna is explaining about the jnaya. Jnaya means the one which has to be known. Jnana means the knowledge, and jnaya means what you are going to learn. That is jnaya. That is Krishna himself. So how it has to be understood, that is explained here. Sarvata panipadam tat sarvatokshi shiromukham sarvata shrutimalloke sarvam avritam tishtati avritya tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. This is the understanding of super soul. When a person comes to Brahma, goodness, from passion and ignorance, when he comes to goodness, he can come to the Brahman realization. Then next comes the Paramatma realization, in which the person can understand that the Lord is present in each and every living entity in the form of Paramatma, and also he is present in each and every living, each and every atom. That's why it's called as, it is said here as Sarvata Panipadam. Everywhere his hands and legs are there. Why hands and legs are used? Because all the activity that is happening here, it is the root cause is Krishna himself. Because of him, everything is happening. That is the meaning here. Sarvata Akshi Shiromukham. He can see everything. He is all pervasive. He is omnipresent, omniscient. This is the knowledge of the Paramatma. Then the super soul is the original source of all the senses, yet he is without the senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. This is like little confusing. He doesn't have senses, but he is the origin of all the senses. That means our senses, it will work only if there is Paramatma. If there is no Paramatma, our body will not work, or we can't do any activity. So the root cause or the original source of all our activity through the senses, there are 10 senses: eyes, nose, ear, tongue, skin. These are the knowledge acquiring senses, and working senses, that is speech, the vak, pani, pada, guda, upastha, that is speech, hands, legs, genital and anus. These are the 5 working senses. All these senses are working in their proper order only because of the presence of the super soul within the heart. Yet he is without the senses. What does it mean? He doesn't have the senses like us. Krishna's senses are transcendental. How do we know that Krishna has transcendental senses? It is said in Brahma Samhita. Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti. That means his senses are transcendental and they can perform the activity of each other. Like we can see through the eyes, we hear through the ear, we can smell through the nose. But for the Lord, it is not so. He can do any activity through any of the senses. Just by seeing the bhoga that we offer to him, he can accept it, he can eat it. In this way, the Lord can do any of the activity. So his senses are not material. In that way, it is told that here he is without the senses. And he is the maintainer of everything. Generally, if we see anybody maintaining someone, or he is the manager or the maintainer of any organization or a system or a family, he will have some attachment. Oh, this is mine, this belongs to me. But for the Lord, it is not so. He is the maintainer of every living entity, but he is completely unattached. He is one of the opulence of the Lord is Vairagya. He is completely aloof from the material bondage. And he is transcending the three modes, and he is the master of all the modes. All the three modes are acting according to his desire, according to his the instructions. The three modes are acting, but he is the master. Three modes cannot touch him. Three modes cannot bewilder him. These are the knowledge. This is what we have to understand by getting the knowledge. That is Jnaya. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. So here Krishna is again bewildering us with so many ways how he is explaining. He is present inside us, and he is also present outside of each and every living entity. He is present in our heart as Paramatma, and he is present outside as the omnipresent everywhere. He is present in each and every atom. And he is the moving and non-moving. The Lord is present everywhere. He can move anywhere, means he is covering everything. So we can, in one sense, he is non-moving because he is stationary. He is the unmoved mover. He is the one who is causing the movement of everything. And he also being within that element, he also moves. And since he is subtle, our material senses cannot see or know him. Our senses are limited. But when Krishna allows us to see him, we can see. Or when we develop the eligible eyes or the specific eyes, it's called Premanjana Chakshu. Then through that we can see the Lord. So here it is told in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shyama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. One who can see Krishna, one who has developed this Premanjana Chakshu. Through these gross eyes, we cannot see him. And even though he is far, far away, he is in Goloka Vrindavana. It is far away from this place. He is very, very near to us. A devotee can realize the Lord within his heart. When we realize the Lord, it is the real benefit, or it is the real asset. Even though the presence of the Lord is there in our heart, if we don't realize it, then it is as good as saying, I don't have the Lord with me. And only when we realize the presence of the Lord within us, we can have his presence. Just like if I have some money with me, but I don't know that the money is there, then it is as good as having no money, because I'm not having any knowledge about it. But if I am having the knowledge of the existence of the Lord within my heart, then I can take the advantage. I can take the benefit of the association of the Lord. So in this way, either you can say he is far, far away for a person who is trying to forget him, or he is very, very near, nearer than anybody else within the heart itself for a devotee. The Lord accompanies us everywhere. Nobody can accompany us in each and every place. The parents cannot accompany the child everywhere. Nobody, anyone you can take, anybody who is so-called maintainer in this material world, they cannot watch us each and every moment, but Paramatma will do it. So he is the most dearest to us. So in this way, he is the nearest person. Then, although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one, although he is the maintainer of every living entity. It is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Here, the Lord's energy is there everywhere. It is all pervading. And because of that, all the activities are going on. Now, in the material calculation, if we see, if something is distributed, it will lose its original position, original existence. Prabhupada gives the example of a paper. If you tear the paper into so many pieces and you throw it, or if you just disperse it, then the original is lost. But for the Lord, it is not so. He is transcendental. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Lord is infinite. And if you remove infinity from that, then again the infinity remains as it is. In this way, even though super soul looks like divided, it is there in each and every living entity. It is there in my heart, in your heart, in each and every animal, bird, everywhere he is there. That means he is completely divided himself, but still he is situated as one person. The example is given of the sun. If you have a small pots, in that if you fill some water, in each pot you can see the sun, but the original sun is present separately. Similarly, Paramatma is present in our heart, but again the Lord is present as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, the third Purushavatara, in the Kshira ocean or the milk ocean separately. So he is one, even though he is divided. And he is the maintainer of everyone. But still, he devours and he develops everyone. Continuing further, he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and he is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Thus, the field of activities, that is the body, the knowledge, and the knowable, have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So Krishna is finally telling, if you want to understand this knowledge, whatever he explained just now, one has to practice Krishna consciousness. Only devotees can understand what Krishna is explaining. For person, those who are non-devotees, they will not be able to appreciate this knowledge. They will see this is not correct, or they will not be able to appreciate or comprehend whatever Krishna is explaining. So if we really want to know what Krishna is trying to say here, what is Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Jnaya, one has to practice Krishna consciousness. Then only we can understand what is real Bhagavad Gita is. Next, further continuing, Krishna is explaining about the Prakriti and Purusha. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? And what is the combination of both? This is explained in the last chapter of this 13th last part. That is there are totally 35 shloka. Okay, in the next session, it is telling about Prakriti, Purusha and their union. What is Prakriti? That is the nature. And what is the Purusha? The enjoyer and their union. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So here both are beginningless, either material nature or the living entity. Both are beginningless. Why it is so? Then what is the beginning? Beginning is only the form that the material nature gets, or this body what we have got. This body what we are possessing at present, it was a part of this earth earlier. And that earth was present eternally. Even though there is some destruction, the basic elements will not get destroyed. The 5 elements. It will be there always. It will only transform from one form to another, and it will take different shapes. So the material nature is beginningless. And living entities, they are also beginningless. There is no date where the living entity has born. They are eternally present. Then why we call Krishna as the origin? Because he is the maintainer of everyone. He is the person who is maintaining us, and because of him all the activities are going on, and he is the root cause of all the activities, all the things that are happening. So that's why Krishna is the source of everything. And the living entity is beginningless. It is very difficult to understand how a living entity or any object, it can be beginningless, because we don't have any example in this material world of the things which are beginningless. In material world, something comes to existence and then it will grow, then finally it will die or it will destroy. It get destroyed. There are totally 6 transformations for a living entity. Astite, jayate, vardate, parinamate, apakshiyate, nashyate. Astite means the child comes into existence in the womb of mother, then it takes birth, then it grows, jayate, vardate, parinamate, he will make so many byproducts, he will do so many activities, then the old age comes, then finally the person will leave the body. So these are the 6 transformation that is present for everything that comes into existence within this material world. So these are the different transformations, and the modes of matter are the products of this material nature. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. The job of the living entity or the jiva is to desire. I want to do something. I have certain kind of desire. Now, based on the activity or the pious credit or impious credit, these desires gets fulfilled by the material energy. So the cause of the material activities, it is the material energy, nature. It is the material cause. And what the living entity does, he is either causing the suffering or enjoyment. How it is happening? Because the living entity gets attached to the results of those activity which are performed by the material nature. But he thinks that it is being done by myself. I am the doer. So he either creates the enjoyment or he creates the suffering. And the activity, it is made by the material nature itself. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. In this way, the living entity develops certain kind of desire, and based on that desire, the material nature will create certain situation to fulfill that desire, and the living entity, it will identify himself with the result of that activity. He gets attached to it, and then he will enjoy or suffer in this life as well as in the next coming life. The next body is also decided based on what kind of desire one has developed. So what is there in our hand? Desiring. Either we can desire to serve Krishna or we can desire to serve Maya. If we serve Maya, we are getting entangled. If we are serving Krishna, we get liberated. So the choice is ours. But direct activity, it is not in our hand. And what Paramatma is doing within the heart? He is doing two things. Anumanta, Upadrishta. Upadrishta Anumanta cha Bhakta Bhokta Maheshwaraha Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purusha Para. Yet in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, who is known as the Super Soul. Super Soul has two activity. One is permitter. Whatever we desire, the material nature sanctions. Yes, that is correct. But it needs the permission from the Lord, from the Super Soul. And when the permission is given, the Super Soul also oversees what this person is doing. So all these things are activities of the Super Soul. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth again, regardless of this present position. So by understanding this is the glory of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Whatever knowledge we just now discussed, if somebody is able to understand this knowledge, if he is able to realize this knowledge, then there is no another birth for him, because he has understood the real fact of this material world, how the bondage is taking place. Some perceive the Super Soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So these are the different ways how we can see the Super Soul, that is from the knowledge, how we can understand the or realize the Super Soul through the meditation and cultivation of the knowledge, Nishkama Karma Yoga, working without fruitive desires. All these things are the different path in which the Super Soul can be achieved. And there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begins to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. And because their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Next, continuing further, Krishna is explaining about the Jnana Chakshu, that is the knowledge of the Lord. Krishna is explaining here. This is the last part of this 13th chapter. O chief of Bharata, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Anything that we can see, it may be a living entity of any kind of species, or the material elements, anything that is there, it's a combination of two things. One is the field, other one is knower of the field. The body what we are possessing, it is a field, and within that field there is a knower of the field, that is Jiva. Unless there is a knower of the field will not be useful, or it cannot perform any activity. All the activities are being performed because of the presence of knower of the field. Two kinds of knowers, one is the Jivatma and Paramatma. The example is given, if you see there is a machine which is a field, and there is an operator of the machine who is the knower of the field. Unless the knower of the field is present in front of the field or within the field cannot make any production. The production or the activity or the resource, the sources, the products, it can come out only when there is presence of both. That is the knower of the field as well as the field itself. It is only the combination. There is no third thing that is present. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. This is called Jnana Chakshu. One who has developed the Jnana Chakshu, or the eyes with knowledge, he can see the super soul in each and every living entity. It may be human being, animals, birds, beasts, reptiles, anything. He can realize that the super soul is present in each and every living entity. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind, thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Now, what is the benefit of seeing Paramatma everywhere? He will not degrade himself. He is able to understand the real purpose of life. He is making the best use of this body, the field, because the Paramatma is there, who is the overseer, who is the sanctioner, who is actually performing who is making the things to happen. So in this way, one who has realized the super soul, he will not degrade himself, rather he will advance in spirituality. So what is the need for knowing all these things with so much of difficulty? It will enhance our spirituality, or it will increase our attachment to the Lord. Whatever learning, it is little difficult to understand the topics in this chapter, 13th and 14th. But this knowledge, what we are learning here, it will protect our bhakti. It will give a reason why we have to perform the bhakti yoga, the practice of Krishna consciousness. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. All activities performed by the body. Here, in the previous, it is told all the activities, the root cause is Krishna himself. And here in this shloka, it is told that the activities are performed by the body, which is made by the material nature, and the soul which is present within the body, He is not the doer. That is the actual vision. So here emphasis is given to say that the living entity is not the doer. It is the Jivatma who is doing the activity. Yes, Muralidhar Prabhu.
Prabhuji, we have Rakshita Mataji waiting for Kirtan. It's already
Okay.
12:20.
Yes, Prabhu. We'll have a Kirtan and then we can continue.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, please start. I'll make you the co-host.
You have to make me also the co-host. I want to put
Sure.
attendance. That everyone is not there. Chat with only you is permitted so far.
Okay. Yeah. I just started the class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, Mataji.
It is.
Radhikashtakam. Kumkumakta kanchanabja garvahari gaurabha Pitananchitabja gandha kirti nindi saurabha Vallavesha shuna sarva vanchitata sadhika Ahyamata pada pratasya sadhika Ahyamata pada pratasya sadhika Auravitasante Chitrapada sadhika Krishna Madhya Bhanga Keli Palla Pushpadati Krishna Nitya Sangamata Padma Bandhu Radhika Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasuradi Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Saukamarya Shishta Pallavali Kirti Nigraha Chandra Chandanutpalendu Sevya Sita Vigraha Bhima Vallabhisha Kamatapadika Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Shravanyayavataभिवन्दितापि आरमा Upanavyayavanadisampadānayutama Dīnahasnayasayayatochinādika Ahyamatmapadaktasya dāsupādi Ahyamatmapadaktasya dāsupādi Gita Narma Satkalali Pandita Prema Ramya Rupa Vesha Satkulari Vishwanama Gopa Yoshidata Lokiyadika Ahyamatma Pada Pratasya Dasupādi Ahyamatma Pada Pratasya Dasupādi Yarya Rupa Keli Krishna Bhava Sampada Krishna Raga Bandha Gopa Yavate Krishna Rapa Vesha Keli Lagna Saitavadika Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasupādi Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasupādi Vedakam Kakanta Kasutgadadi Sanchita Harsha Harsha Vamatati Bhava Bhushan Krishna Kosharatna Mandanali Radhika Ahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasupādi Ahyamatma Dasya Dastu Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Yakshanarda Krishna Vyopayoga Sankitodita Ekadainya Chapaladi Bhava Vrinda Modita Yattalaka Krishna Sangha Nirgata Kiladika Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Shtakedayatsanena Nanti Krishna Vallabha Samhadarshanepi Shailajediya Shodala Krishna Sangha Nanditatma Dasati Dubhajana Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Mahyamatma Pada Padma Dasya Dasurādhika Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation. May that Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion snatches away the pride of a golden lotus flower tinged with kunkuma, whose bodily fragrance reproaches the fame of the fragrant lotus sprinkled with saffron powder, and who fulfills all the desires of the Prince of Vraja, Sri Krishna, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, whose dazzling colorful silk sari defeats the splendor of coral, who is a garden of all varieties of blooming flowers which attract the maddened bumblebee, Sri Krishna, who comes to play amongst her flowers, and who worships the sun god in order to meet with Krishna eternally, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, whose softness defeats the fame of delicate budding flowers, whose body's coolness is worshipable for the moon, sandalwood paste, the lotus, and the camphor, and whose touch dispels the heat of Gopi Jana Vallabha, Sri Krishna's amorous desires, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. Although Lakshmi Devi is honored by all the worshipable damsels of the universe, the opulence of her great beauty and ever fresh youthfulness is overshadowed by that of Srimati Radhika, nor can Lakshmi Devi surpass by her natural loving and playful disposition. May that Srimati Radhika bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, who is expert in all the celestial arts of the Rasa Leela, like dancing, singing, and joking, who is adorned with supernatural prema, enchanting beauty, wonderful dresses and ornaments, and all divine virtues, and who is the topmost youthful maiden of Braja, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, who by her very fresh beauty, ever fresh beauty, ever fresh playfulness, and ever fresh wealth of affection, causes all the young maidens of Raja who are abound in love to Sri Krishna to tremble in anxiety, and who is immersed in samadhi upon Sri Krishna's beauty, attire, and playful pastimes, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, who is in divine ecstasy, manifest perspiration, hair standing on one end, trembling tears, and a choked voice, who is adorned with indignation, joy, and contrariness, and who wears splendid jewel-studded ornaments which delight Sri Krishna's eyes, always bestow upon me the service of her lotus feet. May that Srimati Radhika, who upon being separated from Sri Krishna for even half a moment becomes dressed by her ever arising feelings of her own lowliness and great restlessness, and who upon meeting Krishna through the intense efforts of one of their messengers is relieved of all her mental anguish, always bestow upon me the service to her lotus feet. Srimati Radhika, whose darshan is rarely attained even by Parvati Devi and other goddesses, who gives great pleasure to her Sakhis, and who herself becomes elated upon meeting with Sri Krishna, and who is Krishna's dearest lover, ever very quickly makes the person who prays to her singing this Ashtaka a recipient for the nectar of her service. This Ashtaka is recited in the poetic meter known as Sunaka. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Very nicely rendered.
Yeah, the attendance is given now, I think. Yeah, all of you please give the attendance. Muralidhar Prabhu has already. Have you shared to all, Prabhu? Sorry, okay.
Both of us have posted. more the merrier.
Yeah. So one thing we should understand is that this part of Bhagavad Gita, that is, it is especially jnana, so knowledge. Some people may find it little difficult to understand, but we should put our put our endeavor to understand. It may be a little boring also sometimes, because Krishna speaking about the material nature. Even in college also, when we learn about material things, it's very boring. So here, generally what we see when we learn about chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, it's very attractive. But when 13 and 14, people will find it little difficult. So in the overall, the chapter number 13 is telling how this material world is made. What are the different elements? How it is basic, the gross way of creation. And then within that, how the activities are being performed. That is because of the living entity and the super soul. Then what is the cause of activity? That is the desire of the living entity. And who is performing the activity? That is again material nature itself. The living entity, it has no capacity to move the material energy. Just like you are driving a car or a truck, you can drive it only with the energy of that vehicle itself. We are only giving the direction. I want to go left, I want to go to right. I can't even move the wheel of that vehicle independently. If I get down and try to move that wheel, I cannot lift it. I cannot lift the vehicle, but still I can move the vehicle in whatever direction I want. Similarly, this body, we are performing so many activities only because the material energy is cooperating. It is allowing us to do it. Otherwise, I can't even lift my hand. I cannot speak. I cannot see. It's all happening because of the material nature. But it is happening so naturally that we think that I'm only the doer. And that becomes the cause of bondage. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaha miti manyate. Ahankara vimudhatma. One who thinks that he himself is doing, he gets entangled. Example you can give. There is a murder happened. And the police comes. And if police asks another person, have you done this murder? He'll say, yes, I am done. Then they will arrest him. Whether he has done or not, that is different issue. Because he has accepted it, he is the culprit. Similarly, the jiva, he is not able to perform, or he is not able to move this body on his own energy. But he thinking that I am only the doer. I did it. It's mine. It's my achievement. So as long as we think in this way, we take the results, we take the reactions, we get bound. But what Krishna says here, when we realize that the body is, the living entity is not the actual doer, it is the Prakriti, which is making the things to happen. And it is the Krishna who is sanctioning it. That is our actual vision. That is the knowledge that one should have when one is living in this material world. So let us come to the conclusion of this chapter. What we understood in this chapter, presented an overview of Bhagavad Gita chapters 13 and 14. And what is the preaching application? Explained the entanglement of the living entity in the modes of nature with reference to the Bhagavad Gita. That is, how the living entity is bound within this material world. And overview of the conditioning of the three modes of nature upon a living entity. And then how to transcend the three modes by practicing Krishna consciousness is also explained. Then identifying the different ways how one can personally influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance, and practical ways how one can develop the mode of goodness. Then finally discuss the statements from Prabhupada's purports to 14th chapter, which reflects his mission. That is the final slide, where Prabhupada is telling we should spread this Krishna consciousness everywhere. Even if we are not able to spread everyone, at least certain percentage of people, if they become Krishna conscious, then the face of the world can be changed. That is the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, this is the final slide. Anybody wants to read, they can raise their hand. Radha Vallabhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfection and transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord now explains the same knowledge in a better way. This knowledge is far superior to all other processes of knowledge, thus far explained. And knowing this many attained perfection. This is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. Bhagavad Gita 14.1 purport. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you, Mataji. In this way, Prabhupada is telling that this knowledge is the superior knowledge, by understanding which one can come to the perfection of his life. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of today's class. If anybody has any questions in today's class, they can raise their hands and ask the question. No questions. Okay. Kiruba Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
This 14.16 BG.
Yeah.
You have quoted one slide, Prabhu, from Prabhupada.
Okay.
That is, a passion is ignorance. It is
14.16 you.
Yeah, pious action is pure, they say actually, and it is mode of goodness.
Yes.
And passion is misery, it leads to misery.
Yeah.
Ignorance is foolishness. But without passion, we cannot involve ourselves in any good activities or pious activities.
No, passion makes you to work without thinking. In a passionate condition, a person works for sense gratification, or actually the person is being dragged by the senses. That's why he is working. But a person who is in mode of goodness, he is also working, but he is working with knowledge. So the activity is possible in both cases. But in goodness, the activity is with knowledge, and in the passion, the activity is because of the bondage.
Okay, Prabhuji. And also this pious action is pure, but it is still temporary when it is not Krishna conscious. That is what we are.
Yeah, if you perform pious activity, you will be able to enjoy, either in this life or in the next life or in heaven. Then that gets over. It's like you earn money and spend it. But if you connect it to Krishna, then it is eternal.
Okay, understood.
Like
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I just have this doubt. Like when we say Brahman realization, like the person Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavyastini Suni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So that means transcending these three modes, right? When
Yes.
a person transcends three modes, he comes to Brahman platform. Is it this Brahman and Brahman realization that which comes in absolute truth, like understanding God realization, the first Brahman realization? Are these two both same, or are they different?
Same, Mataji. They come to the Brahman realization platform.
But then even in the devotees like Prabhupada, they're also in Brahman platform, but he is not into that Brahman realization. So I have some
No.
confusion.
If you have already completed your degree, it's understood you have completed SSLC.
Okay.
One who has already reached the Bhagavan realization, he already has the Brahman realization. Only after
Okay.
passing that, he will come to that higher platform.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Rakshita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So my question is about Yogamaya and Mahamaya. What is the difference? And when Subhadra was born, she takes a Durga Devi's Rupa, right, to warn Kamsa. So what is Subhadra? We call her Yogamaya, and Durga Devi is Mahamaya. So what is the difference?
Subhadra Devi has not taken birth for killing or for warning Kamsa. It was Durga Devi herself.
Okay.
Subhadra took birth much later.
But then when the baby was exchanged, Vasudeva brought a baby girl.
It has nothing to do with Subhadra. In that entire story, Subhadra's name will not come.
So Krishna was exchanged with Durga, is it?
Yeah. It was
Okay.
Mahamaya.
Okay. And what is the difference, Prabhuji, with Yogamaya and Mahamaya?
Yeah, Mahamaya is the one which makes us to be in this material world. Here we are actually in the spiritual world, we try to become like Krishna. I want to enjoy like Krishna. So it is not possible. So this material world is created, and Durga is the chief here, and she is taking care of all of us. That's why it's called as Maya. Mahamaya. And in Yogamaya, when Krishna comes to perform his activities, there the Yogamaya will act. Yashoda also doesn't know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that is under Yogamaya. That is also Maya. That is transcendental illusion. If she comes to know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then she will not take a stick and run behind him. The entire pastime is closed. So Krishna's pastime takes place under the protection of Yogamaya, and we are being put under the illusion under the Mahamaya. Being under Yogamaya is devotee. Either a devotee or non-devotee, both are not capable of understanding Krishna's power. Both are like everyone has certain relation with the Krishna Lord, even in devotional service. Yashoda is thinking he is my child. She is not thinking that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Either Vasudeva, Devaki, or Nanda, Yashoda. These are the examples frequently quoted. So devotees are under Yogamaya, and non-devotees are under Mahamaya.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Radha Vallavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you explained Gaya.
Yeah.
And I need to, sorry, I did not understand. Gaya and knowledge. Knowledge, we say Jnana.
Yeah.
And Gaya.
What you are going to learn. Jnana is the knowledge. Jnaya is the object of knowledge. That is Krishna. What you are going to understand by having that knowledge is Jnaya.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Sureshwar Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Now from this chapter, at the end you said, those who are knowing 14th chapter, they will be surely liberated. So actually this Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years back to Arjuna. But 500 years back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, those who are chanting, they will surely getting liberated. So when you talk about the practical applications, can we say this is a very difficult chapter and understanding is very difficult. And if at all we are talking to a third person and you are explaining to us and we are getting little bit, and again a person like me, if I am explaining to somebody, they may not even listen. So instead of that, if I say that this is a formula, no? Chanting is a formula for Kali Yuga. for
Yeah.
a person to get liberated.
Yeah.
So what is your suggestion in that practical application?
Yeah, whether to learn all this knowledge and explain or just chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. Is this your question, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Yeah. What is the need of all these things? It's like you have a very nice garden, very good flower garden you have made by chanting daily with so much of attention. Krishna is very pleased with you. Now you have to put a fence for that, no? You have to protect it.
Okay.
So the wonderful flowers which has come out by your devotional service, it needs some protection. For that you need jnana. Otherwise somebody can come and confuse you tomorrow. If you don't have the knowledge, then you may stop your chanting activity.
Okay.
So jnana is the protection, karma is the protection. If you are not doing karma, if you don't know what is actually karma, how it has to be performed, just like somebody may say, you all are devotees, why you people are cooking and eating? It is all materialistic activity. Don't do it.
Okay.
If you don't know how to answer, then you have to fast. You have to starve.
Okay.
It's a knowledge, how you answer them. It's a karma, it's an activity, what you perform. And it's a means to achieve Krishna. So it is jnana karma anavritam. It is not jnana karma shunyam for bhakti. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevan. What is that? Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam. Where that comes? Jnana karma janavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. One has to give up all sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat. Okay, I'm not getting fine. We have to give up we should not give up the work and this knowledge. One should have what we have to do? Anavritam. Anavritam means it should be free from the material desire or material activities. Performing activity for the pleasure of the Lord, that is correct. And gaining the knowledge about Krishna, that is correct. Don't make karma shunya or jnana shunya. So both are needed, Mataji.
Okay,
But performing Krishna conscious activities, chanting and reading, is the easiest process. Susukam kartum avyayam. Everyone can perform it. But still, you need to have the jnana. And no need to worry about it. When we do devotional service to Krishna, the jnana will come automatically.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And one more question I have. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Yes, Mataji.
One more question that is in 13th chapter. I think in the initial some verses, we were just talking about Krishna has created everything, but at the same time, he is not at all attached to it or he is not part of it. So there we are talking about at death. Means Krishna leaves the body. What will happen to super soul when a person is dying? The other soul is going away. That we know that the soul will be going into another body and he will take rebirth. What about this super soul who is residing in the same person in the material covering?
Yeah, super soul accompanies the soul as long as he reaches the Vaikuntha. It will not leave him.
Again, it is depending upon the type of work he is doing, isn't it? Karma. It is based on karma.
Based on karma, he will get another body. And in that body also, same super soul will continue.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Deepti Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the session.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, could you please explain a little about the cause and effect?
Pertaining to which shloka, Mataji?
Prabhuji, there is this shloka. I just missed. Somewhere it was there, the cause and effect. Prabhuji, there is this thing which I understood that the Lord is the ultimate cause. And like the living entities, or if we take an example of a fruit like a mango. So when we are eating a mango, it's basically coming from the seed. So ultimately, if we drill down further, we will ultimately reach to the ultimate goal, that is the Lord Himself, because it is coming from the Prakriti, Panchabhuta. But Prabhuji, I don't understand that. Somewhere I read that the ultimate, the cause, the effect that is happening, the effect is happening due to the cause, and later on, that particular effect will become the subsequent cause for the next activity. So this is a bit confusing. So I was unable to understand it. Like, for example, there is a fire. So we will need the fire to ignite the fuel. So now the fuel is getting ignited because of the fire. So it becomes the cause. The effect is the ignition. And until it turns into ashes, it will keep on. We'll need that particular fire. But after some time, momentarily, it is just for that particular moment. And after that, the entire activity will get terminated. The cause will also terminate, something like that. So it was quite confusing. I was trying to understand this cause and effect actually. Yeah.
I will check, Mataji. I have to learn exactly what it is. Then only I can explain.
Sure.
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Radha Vallavi Mataji.
Prabhuji, it's in connection with what Sarita Mataji was asking, this soul and super soul question. So soul, you said when a person dies, the soul looks for another body, and it's the same super soul also which accompanies it. Is that?
Yeah. Yes, Mataji. The super soul accompanies. Yeah. Till he enters the Vaikuntha.
Enters the Vaikuntha. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any question? Okay, if there are no more questions, then we'll end today's session.